All right. And so this weekend, the Department of Justice was supposed to release the full Epstein files to Congress on Friday, but they didn't do that. But instead, they've released about 500 pages. It's like a fucking Harry Potter book's worth of this 2-day-long interview with Ghislaine Maxwell that was conducted, as we can see from this is page 1 of day 1 so far. Just to tell you guys, I haven't even had time to look at day 2. It's taken me every spare minute of time I've had up until literally the second this video started to get through day 1. So if there's something in day 2 that contradicts anything that I'm saying tonight, I'll find out on the stream I do about day 2. But for now, all I can say is I've read through day 1. It was like 250 pages or something, 263 pages. It is basically like a Joe Rogan interview because it's the very friendly interview. Todd Blanche is mostly the guy who's interviewing her. He's very nice to her. He's kind of like has like this Joe Rogan kind of esque thing where he just sort of agrees with whatever his guest is saying. He doesn't try to argue. He doesn't try to, fight back in any way. Maybe like we should talk about who this guy is. So for the most part, the only two people who really talk in this interview are Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General. So I believe that means he's like just below Pam Bondi in the hierarchy of the administration right now. But who is this guy? Who the heck is this dude? Who is Todd Blanche? Donald Trump's lawyer in his Stormy Daniels hush money trial. So this guy used to be Donald Trump's personal lawyer. He was like a defense lawyer, not a prosecutor, not a guy who would be like, okay, here is one of the world's most horrifying criminals, and what questions should I ask them to really find out more about their guilt? No. He's not that type of lawyer. He's the type of lawyer that's like, hey, pay me a lot of money and I will do what I can to get you out of a real scrape and a jam. That's kind of his vibe. Great picture of him right there, by the way. Okay, this part's crazy. So Ghislaine, they're talking about Wexner, they're talking about whatever. Todd's like, how many clients like that did Mr. Epstein have? Ghislaine goes, well, why don't I just give you the names that I remember? And say it again. Why don't I just give you the names? Yeah. Do you want the names? Sure, go ahead. So go ahead. This is the Epstein client list from Ghislaine. So Ghislaine just starts listing names, and she actually has a little book. She's like, I brought a book. I wrote down some names of his clients. I wrote down a list of Epstein's clients. So here's what she says. She goes, Les Wexner, Leon Black, and she's mentioning she's not necessarily listing like Epstein's like sex trafficking clients. She's listing the clients to Epstein's like financial services scam. I think it's a scam. So Les Wexner, Leon Black, both of whom were on the Chill Goblin. Those were people who I put on my list, my opinion version of the Epstein client list. Elizabeth Johnson from Johnson & Johnson. I was not aware that they were connected at all. But apparently, Elizabeth Johnson also was one of his financial clients. Jess Staley, also on my list. Glenn Dubin, also on my list. And if you'll recall, was this guy who ended up marrying Eva Anderson like a month after she broke up with Epstein. And then she mentions a woman in Ohio with the largest Klein painting. I think I'm going to get into that in a second. And Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. So Lynn Forrester has always denied. Epstein claimed that he had lent her $1 million when she came to him and she was like in broke or something. And she denied that. She's denied all of his connections with him. Another connection with Forrester de Rothschild. Her brother owns a airport terminal in Teterboro Airport in New York, New Jersey, that Epstein always flew into. I feel like Lynn Forrester may be another person who Epstein like ripped off because he certainly had apparently a lot of sway with her. And I just don't believe he was actually helping with her finances. Todd Blanche, Ghislaine goes, Glenn Dubin was a client. Who's that? This is how I know Todd Blanche. He's not an Epstein. He's not got Epstein brain. This guy isn't familiar with like the lore here. Who's Glenn Dubin? Dude, anybody who has spent 20 seconds on the R Epstein subreddit knows about Glenn Dubin. This guy's like a primary character in the Epstein saga. This guy's one of the people Virginia Giuffre accused. Does not know who he is. So she also talks about there's a billionaire woman from Ohio who's another client of Epstein who owns the largest Klein painting. And I did some reconnaissance, try to figure out who this was. I believe this is the largest painting by Yves Klein. I think that's who she's talking about. Large blue anthropomorphy. But I can't figure out who owns it. But I think this is it. But then it was easier to find the only female billionaire. This is from Forbes, well, this is from Fox8.com, but apparently Forbes magazine listed 3 Ohioans. Denise York of Youngstown, who wait, is this right? 73? This woman is 73 years old? What? Jeez. Because I'd seen pictures of her. I didn't clock that she was 73. Oh my God. How much children's blood do you need to bathe in to look that young at 73? That's crazy. When is this photo from? Oh, 2000. Oh, okay. Still. All right. But that's who it was, Denise York. That's another one of the, shout out to Ohio, probably one of the worst places to be a billionaire. Yeah, if you're a billionaire, why would you be in Ohio? Yeah, insane. But anyway, I don't know. Ghislaine's asked, what did Jeffrey Epstein do for Lynn Forrester to Rothschild? She says, I have no idea. I know he helped her financially. Her husband was the controller of New York. This part pissed me off so much. So Todd Blanche does this 3 times during the interview. Wexner, Staley, Leon Black. Line 22. David Marcus, one of her lawyers, interrupts. Did you ever see him blackmail a friend or an acquaintance? Never. And Todd Blanche. So this is, by the way, this is in the middle of Ghislaine is listing people. She's giving us her list. She's giving us her list of people here. Les Wexner, Leon Black, Elizabeth Johnson, Jess Daly, Glenn Dewey, Women in Ohio, Lynn Forrester to Rothschild. And then Todd fucking Blanche completely shifts the topic. Oh, why don't we talk about blackmail? We can talk about, we can talk about that. We can talk about that now. I'm like, dude, she's still listing names. Like, let her talk, man. So then they get on the blackmail thing, and she implicates nobody, right? Doesn't she clear Epstein of any wrongdoing also? She doesn't point to anyone in all this? She does implicate somebody. She does, in fact, implicate somebody. I'll get to that in a minute. It's not fun. But for a while, she gets off of talking about the names and she has a fucking book. And it's just so fucking annoying. Like if I was interviewing her and she's like, yeah, I've got a book of the clients, I'd be like, great. Like, I'm not going to talk. You name them all and then we'll move on. But instead, she'll name one and he'll be like, and who's that again? And I'm like, dude, just like wait till you get home and Google them. You know, why do you need to get her to talk about each one? Just get her, just let's hear the list. No, now they're on the blackmail stuff. So we finally get back on track. Todd Blanche is like, who are some other famous politicians? And she's like, oh, yeah. And she gets her book out and she starts naming more people. She's adding more people to the list. Who are some other famous politicians, other individuals in Epstein's life during that time period? So from through the 90s, while Ghislaine was there. Okay, Congressman McMillan, who I don't know who that is. I've never heard Congressman McMillan be mentioned alongside Epstein. Henry Rosofsky, who's the provost of Harvard. So she's looking at her book here. It says, sure, you're looking at your notes. Yes, go ahead. So she's got a list. She's reading off of her list. Joe Pagano, Jerry Goldsmith, Joe Roberts, Kenny Lipper, Dan Abramson. But she's listing people here. Tom Pritzker, Ace, that's Ace Greenberg, Jimmy Kane from Bear Stearns, Lou Ranieri. I mean, there were, and again, motherfucking Todd Blanche interrupts. He can't help himself. What about the royal family? So it's like this is where I'm pissed, because then it goes into pages and pages of Todd being like, what about this person? What about this person? What about this person? And I'm like, Todd, she's in the middle of just reading you a list. Just sit back and let her say names. But no, Todd has his own list. He wants to name people for her. Right? Why don't they get, like, please, let me scan every page in that book. Why would you interrupt her while she's listing these people? Like, a lot of these people are new to me. I didn't have these people on my list. I'm going to be looking into them. They get off topic for a while. And then Todd actually asks a good question later. He's like, okay, and what about all of these prominent individuals that were in his life? Did any of them stick out in your mind as having received massages? And this would be the massage, people who receive massages. This is basically what, from what we know, from what Virginia Giuffre and others have said, other victims of Epstein have said, this is how they would be trafficked. So you'd be over at Epstein's house and he'd be like, hey, would you like a massage? Wink, wink, from one of my girls. And they'd be like, yes. And then he'd be like, okay. And they go into a room and he would tell them, treat him, give him the same service you give me. And they would go in and that is where the abuse would happen. Like that's how it would go. So this is a good question. Which of these people that you're naming, because we know we're getting the client list, but these are like the financial clients or whatever fucking scam was going on with that. But how many of them actually got massages? So great question. She starts naming them. Henry Rosofsky, that's the provost of Harvard. Marvin Minsky, Marvin Minsky is fucking Not only is he a likely pedophile, maybe I shouldn't say that. Yeah, I think I can say likely, right? I'm not sure about it, but he got massages from girls at Epstein's house. This dude, Marvin Minsky, this guy is an MIT professor and like he's known as the fucking godfather of AI. This guy was like writing about fucking AI shit long before our current fucking dystopian dead internet theory world. Marvin Minsky. He sounds like a children's book fucking elf or something. Marvin Minsky. He sounds like he owns a magical fucking chocolate factory. He co-founded the MIT's AI laboratory and wrote extensively about AI and philosophy. He won the Turing Award in 1969. This guy has been, and he's a Zionist activist. So just like not a lot of good things to say about this dude. He was an advisor on 2001: A Space Odyssey. And one of the movie's characters, Victor Kaminsky, doesn't really sound like his name, but Minsky, I guess, named as in his honor. This guy's been a big deal. He received a $10,000 research grant from Epstein in 2002, 4 years before his first arrest for sex offenses, which lines up with Ghislaine's timeline here. He organized 2 academic symposia on Little St. James, Epstein's private island. One in 2002, that was while Ghislaine was around, and another in 2011. Virginia Giuffre, so this is why I already had Minsky on my list, on my personal list, is because Virginia had accused him that Ghislaine Maxwell, apparently, had directed her to have sex with Minsky, among others. Yeah, isn't that something? This guy, Marvin Minsky. You shouldn't be able to have that mischievous or that whimsical of a name and be somebody like that. So who got massages? So she names 2 people who gets massages, and then Todd again interrupts her and does the same move where he's like, she's naming people. Henry Rosovsky, Minsky. Say that again. Minsky was another person. Do you know whether, for example, President Clinton ever received a massage? And I'm like, bro, let the woman speak. Stop speaking over women, okay? We need to listen to women, okay? Let women talk. Don't speak over them, all right? It's a 2025, all right? This is a feminist moment. We need to really stop interrupting. Stop putting words in her mouth. And, but yeah, no, of course. Like, this is like, it's so obvious what he's doing here, right? Do you know, for example, whether President Clinton ever received a massage? And Ghislaine's like, no, I don't believe he did. And it's like, bro, quit it. Stop that. Yeah, you better stop with all this naming stuff. Exactly. Because it's like, he would much prefer that he be the one to give her names and then she say yes or no, than just to hear what her fucking list, and she's got it right in front of her. Oh my God, I'm so annoyed. But no, so then he just starts naming people. And it is kind of funny because he names Bill Clinton, which, okay, obviously can tell what's happening there. She says no, even though we have a photo of Bill Clinton getting a massage from Shantae Davis, one of Epstein's victims, at an airport. So, dude, like, Ghislaine, you can't lie about that. This part is a full-on lie. Do you have a recollection of ever recruiting a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago Spa to give a private massage to Mr. Epstein? And Ghislaine said, I've never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago for that. As far as I remember, I can't recollect doing that. And that is not true. This is where she recruited Virginia. She recruited Virginia Giuffre there. I've never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago for that. As far as I remember, I can't ever recollect doing that. Oh, okay. So you would think this would be a point where Todd would be like, what about Virginia Giuffre? The person who you say was the evil temptress to Epstein. What about her? But instead, he doesn't do that. He's like, okay, so what I think we should do now, it's about 12:15. We'll take a break and we'll come back in a little bit. Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay. And then they break for lunch. And then when they come back, they do not keep talking about that. Like Todd Blanche, at parts of this, I think he's acting maliciously. He's acting to protect a pedophile. And there's just parts of it I think he's just kind of dumb. He asks her this. So there's been a lot of conversations about whether Mr. Epstein maintained like a list of people, like a book of famous people that he knew, it's called a black book or a client list or a list. Do you know of the existence of any such list? So here we go. This is my first about how I don't believe that the client list exists. I believe that there were clients, but I don't think that there's some magical list that someone kept somewhere. Ghislaine's answer is very interesting. Ghislaine says, there is no list. We'll start with that. The genesis of that story I can actually trace for you from its absolute inception, if that is what you're interested in. It is. Well, first, to be sure, there is no list. There's no client list, nothing like that. And I thought that Ghislaine's list had originated, had started during the had started, when I say that, I mean the meme of the list, the idea that there is an Epstein list. I thought that it had started during Ghislaine's trial, because that's when it started to sort of come up in all these right-wing memes and stuff. And the Epstein client list released, and it would just be a list of Beyonce, Obama, blah, like anyone who the right wing hates. Obviously not Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, like a bunch of people who were definitely not associated with Epstein at all. So she says there's no list. But then she says the origin of the story, I believe, begins, or it has a beginning in 2009. We'll just start there. In 2009, Epstein is, I think, out of jail, and there are civil suits taking place. Many of these are coming out of disgraced law firm Rothstein, Rosenfeld, and Adler. So this was the law firm that employed Brad Edwards, the lawyer Brad Edwards, the law himbo that represented a bunch of the lawyers, who I think is cool. I like him, and his book is good, but he is a bit of a himbo. Brad Edwards, lawyer. This guy, he's good. He's good, and his book is good. The FBI gets a call in October of 2009 from Brad Edwards. He allegedly tells him that he's come across a piece of evidence that belongs to Epstein that contains a list of all his clients and victims, underage girls, massage therapists, and the men who are having sex with them. And Brad Edwards, becomes a cooperating witness. Leah Safian, the lawyer, interrupts, confidential informant for them, and in a sting operation obtains the list from a former butler of Epstein's called Alfredo Rodriguez. It becomes evidence in the civil suit. Sorry, I got to work on my accent here. Yeah, so that is true. That is true that Alfredo Rodriguez stole the book, the Epstein's Black Book, the famous Black Book, and he stole it from Epstein, and it was apparently his insurance policy, but he's very stupidly tried to sell it to Brad Edwards. And Brad Edwards was like, that's illegal. You're not allowed to sell evidence for a criminal trial to me. Do not do that. It's illegal. And at least according to his book, he was like, don't do it, man. And he did it. He got it, but it was a sting operation, and they ended up arresting Alfredo, but he got the book off of him. And Alfredo, this is always an insane stat. Alfredo, how much time did he do in jail? His prison sentence was 18 months in prison. That's longer in jail than Jeffrey Epstein got for, running a vast pedophile sex trafficking network. Little fun facts about this thing. Alfredo Rodriguez, and he gave them so much stuff. So this book, actually, I took a quote from Relentless Pursuit, Brad Edwards' book. I took a quote from that about this. So this is what he said about the book. This document really was the Holy Grail. It was 97 pages of typed names and phone numbers, including nearly 100 victims of sexual abuse, listed in the document under the heading Massage, which certain designated geographical locations, including Florida, New Mexico, New York, and Paris. Many of my clients and their telephone numbers were listed, including those of Jean-Luc Brunel, Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump, Les Wexner, and Alan Dershowitz. In addition, as he had promised me, Alfredo had circled the names of others who he claimed were involved with or had knowledge of the sexual molestation operation. I wasn't in the room when the FBI takedown occurred, so I'm sure to this day of the discussion they had deciphering Alfredo's handwritten marks on the document. But several of the names of those I'd suspected and whom I'd subpoenaed months prior were circled. So that is close to that is almost a client list. It's a list of people who Alfredo Rodriguez claimed were involved with or had knowledge of the sexual molestation campaign. We don't need to go through the entire book because it's 95 pages. But you can scroll through. Flavio Briatore circled, Brunel Jean-Luc. So he circled stuff. He also wrote some notes and put stars and arrows and shit in the book. I like how he circled Jeffrey Epstein's name. He's like, this guy is important. This guy's important. Bill Richardson circled. He's one of the people Virginia Giuffre accused of whatever. I mean, we could spend a whole stream going through this, looking at all the circled people. Maybe we should do that at some point. But here's an interesting page too. Important email addresses. So look at this. 1 star next to Jeffrey Epstein's name. 3 stars next to Ghislaine Maxwell's name. Okay, so this dude, Rodriguez, definitely thought that Ghislaine Maxwell was an important person here who either participated in the abuse or knew it. Listed a bunch of people here. Joe Pagano, important witness. Jean-Luc Brunel, also 3 stars next to his name. He also died in prison, committed suicide in prison. David Copperfield is named here. This part always creeps me out. Ava Anderson, former model and mother of Naked Pick. So that's Ava Anderson Dubin, one of the Dubins. David Cook, witness. Oh, I think this might be the cook. I think this might be the cook. All right, I got really sidetracked there. This black book with a bunch of circled names and a bunch of underlined names, this is where the idea of a client list came from. This part, so here's an example of what I'm saying, where he shies away from getting too into the Israel stuff. Oh, he goes, we talked about a lot of names. Are there any other foreign nationals? Right now we talked about some British, the royal family, maybe high society folks in Britain. Was there any other international businessmen or politicians that had a very close relationship with Mr. Epstein? And then he lets her get one name out. Off the top of my head, I think of Ehud Barak. And then he shifts it. He goes, and by the way, you mentioned Epstein started taking testosterone in the late 90s. You don't take any other drugs? And I'm like, dude, so this is again, I think this is the 4th time he's done this. You just asked her to list people. You let her say one name, no follow-up questions, and then you asked him about the fucking, like, the steroids that Epstein was taking. Like, what the fuck, dude? Weird. He would always much prefer to ask her his list of names than hear her list. It's so annoying. So the first day, Ghislaine said, no, I've never hired someone from Mar-a-Lago to be a masseuse, even though that's like Virginia Giuffre's very clear origin and story in the Epstein saga, where she's like, we know she worked for Mar-a-Lago. We know she was a locker room attendant there. We know that she eventually became associated with Epstein. She says that Ghislaine met her at Mar-a-Lago, and we know Ghislaine went to Mar-a-Lago all the time. We know Ghislaine was looking for masseuses. So anyway, like, it seems very bizarre that to think that Virginia would make this up. But Ghislaine this day goes, so I believe I said I couldn't think of anybody who I may have asked for Mar-a-Lago, but I realized that the allegation at least, is that I met Virginia in Mar-a-Lago, and so I felt that I needed to address that, and I didn't want to leave that hanging because it seems weird under the circumstances. And Todd Blanche, I don't know exactly what you said yesterday, but I don't think what you said yesterday is different than what you just said. No, Todd, it is different, because yesterday you asked if she'd ever recruited someone from Mar-a-Lago, and she said no, and then you were like, well, why don't we take a break? Instead of being like, what about Virginia? Bro. And he's like, isn't that what you said yesterday? No, dude. Like, I was like yelling at my screen when you refused to ask that follow-up question. So this guy just doesn't know what he's doing. Some of it I think is malicious. Some of it I think he's like trying to lead her and like, take her down certain pathways. No, that's not what was happening here. And then so she mentions to Todd Blanche, and by the way, like, in the middle of the night, last night, I was scribbling names that I couldn't remember from yesterday. Todd Blanche is like, yeah, doesn't follow up, doesn't ask her for names. This one pissed me off, and I think you guys might know why. George Soros, he's naming people. George Soros, did Epstein know him? I don't think he knew him. I did, but I don't think he did. I don't think. Todd Blanche, how did you know Mr. Soros? I was friends with his kids. What? Which kids? John and, I can't think of his other child. I've lost his name. Lawyer, Ghislaine's lawyer. Alexander. Who? Alexander. Yes, I met him, but just socially. He may not even remember even having met me. I was excited to meet him. When would you have met him? I met him I think it was either at an event or at his kids'. It wouldn't have been at his house. An event, I think. Or I think, actually, no. In the Hamptons, I met him. He was staying at somebody's house, if my memory serves. And what was your relationship? How did you know his kids? I was out and about in New York a lot, so just socially, yes. And yeah, just socially, I think. Do you know whether Mr. Soros or his kids ever traveled on Mr. Epstein's planes? I don't think so. Ever visit the island or Mexico or? No, I don't think so. Paris? No? Okay, so anyway, so this is another like right-wing conspiracy thing, right? Obviously, all the fucking right-wing guys are obsessed with George Soros. So of course they assume Soros is connected to Epstein in some way. But no, don't ask about George Soros. Don't ask about fucking, who does she say? Alexander Soros and John Soros. Ask about Peter Soros, another one of the names in Epstein's black book circled by Alfredo Rodriguez. That's the one who got a circle. But because fucking Peter Soros doesn't get like, Tucker Carlson doesn't talk about him. Like these fucking, all these people are, nobody talks about Peter Soros. Because of that, he doesn't know to ask. Yes. Oh, yes. Peter Soros is the nephew of billionaire philanthropist George Soros and the son of the late Paul Soros, an engineer and philanthropist. Who's the one that Huma Abedin married? Huma Soros? She just married a Soros. Alex Soros. Yeah. Huma Abedin. I find this hilarious, by the way. The two of them married, and Abedin, like, was Hillary's, like, bag woman, bag lady, bag man, whatever you want to call it, like right-hand person. And she was Hillary's Doug Band, essentially. And she is the subject of so many, like, conspiracies. People think she's in the Frazzle Drip video where her and Hillary Clinton supposedly cut off the face of a baby and wear it like a mask and whatever. Like, she's Anthony Weiner's Anthony Weiner is her ex-husband, rather, who is like an actual pedophile, And then she divorces Anthony Weiner and she marries Alex Soros. And it's just like, wow, I guess you really, it almost seems like she got married just to like troll the conspiracy theorists. Like, it's sort of like if like it's sort of like I can just imagine, like, I don't know. I almost want to see like the rom-com of this connection, like how they met and fell in love and whatever. Like, just imagine her like meeting with her friends at brunch. I mean, like, oh, I met this guy and he's really nice and like, he's rich and he's cute and really good chemistry, like we got good texting chemistry, but like, I'm just worried because a lot of people think he eats children's blood and is a part of a satanic pedophile cult. I don't know. Am I really ready to date another guy who's the subject of all these conspiracies? Like, I just stopped working for Hillary. Is this right? It's like, but that relationship is very funny. Okay, moving on then. So yeah, another fucking screw up. Are there some folks? So here we go. So this whole time she's been like, I have a list. I have more people. I have this. And he's like, finally, he's like, oh, are there any folks that you think we've forgotten to ask you about? Well, you asked me about names, and I have some names. And I just want to give you some context for the names as well. So we talked about Elizabeth Johnson yesterday. That's from Johnson & Johnson. Elizabeth Johnson, who she said was one of Epstein's clients, his financial clients. Apparently, Epstein was doing financial work for her. She does get names. She Rick Fakai, who was a hairdresser and the husband of Elizabeth Johnson. And she seems to think like Frederick Fakai was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein in like the 80s and 90s. And I don't think I know who that is. Frederick Fakai. This guy. Okay. He's a hairdresser. And who is this? Oh no. Frederick Fakai and Victoria's Secret Oscar. So okay, so here he is at a Victoria's Secret party. So yeah, this guy definitely seems like he's a part of the, Les Wexner club here. I know DM Collins, Stephen Jay Gould. I know. Henry Jarecki. Don't know who that is either. Richard Branson. Oh yeah. Henry Jarecki, she says, and Richard Branson own islands near Epstein, island neighbors. So they would just visit each other on their islands. It's like when you have like a cottage neighbor or something, you're like, oh yeah, the guy lives next to me at the cottage. He's cool. He's a cool guy or whatever. I don't know, not that I have a cottage, but I imagine it's like that, but like an unfathomably wealthy version. She names Marvin Minsky again. I think this is so funny. Marvin Minsky, like this dude. So every time that Ghislaine has gotten to list people, she's listed Marvin Minsky. She was like, her first list, she's like, yes, here are his clients, Marvin Minsky. Her second list, she's like, here are his friends, Marvin Minsky. Here are the people I know got massages, Marvin Minsky. And then she names him again here, Marvin Minsky. It's like all 4 times that Ghislaine has the opportunity to give a list, she names this guy. And this is a guy from MIT, very, very famous dude, very big in the world of artificial intelligence. People call him the godfather of AI. In case you needed another reason to hate AI, this dude, 100%, like this guy's... And I think he was also accused of sexual assault by Virginia. Yeah, okay. AI pioneer Marvin Minsky accused of sex with Epstein trafficking victim. Accusation was made by Virginia Giuffre. So yeah, this guy, like, there's zero chance this guy's innocent. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I guess I shouldn't say anything so definitive since there's all allegations. But yeah, I don't know. For him to, he was specifically named as Ghislaine was like, yeah, I know this guy got massages. Like, come on now. Martin Nowak, Stephen Jay Gould, who's actually legit, and Murray Gelman. So that sucks. That sucks about Stephen Jay Gould. But she does list him. I mean, hey, he's just friends. Doesn't mean, she didn't list him in all of the lists. She just lists him in one at the very end. But I mean, I don't know. Epstein did hang out with a lot of people from Harvard and MIT, so these are a lot of like, there, at least these last four, I think, are a lot of like the academic types and scientists who he would hang out with, particularly in the 2000s. After, when he was trying to rehabilitate his image, he became very involved. Did Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein know Alan Dershowitz? There's a whole section on Dershowitz that's like, why are you asking this? Dude, did you know Alan Dershowitz? Yes, of course she knew Alan Dershowitz. And then he goes, did you know one way or the other whether Mr. Dershowitz got a massage at the island or any of the locations he was at with Mr. Epstein? Dude, why are you fucking wasting our time here? We don't need Ghislaine to tell us if Alan Dershowitz got a massage. Alan Dershowitz has he himself has talked about getting a massage. Like, crazy. But and even then she's like, I don't remember anything about him ever getting massaged. I don't ever have any record. I believe I ever even saw him in a bathrobe. I have no knowledge of that. So here's Dershowitz on The Hill Rising. He was like, I've had very, very few massages in my life. One house by a middle-aged woman who gave me a shoulder and neck massage, which I hated. I called up my wife and complained about it immediately. Yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. It's like, why are you asking her this? Did you attend any weddings of famous people with Mr. Epstein? I mostly focus on post-2000, but if there's something that comes to mind in the 90s, that's fine as well. Ghislaine, a wedding? Todd, weddings. With Epstein, I don't think I ever went to a wedding with Epstein. I can't think of a wedding I ever went to with him. Do you know, so you don't remember, you didn't attend President Clinton's daughter's wedding? I did. Chelsea Clinton's? Right. But that wasn't with Mr. Epstein? No, it was with Ted Waite, my boyfriend. Sorry, say it again. With Ted Waite, my boyfriend. Todd Blanche. Okay, do you know whether Mr. Epstein was at the wedding? He was not. Now, if you know anything about anything, you know that Epstein was not at this wedding. Ghislaine, this was in like 2009, I think. And Ghislaine was photographed at the wedding. This was long after Ghislaine had left Epstein's orbit. So he's like, I'm just like amazed that he doesn't know this. But I guess, I mean, I'm a little bit of a break. Like not everybody has terminal Epstein brain. But he's just like wasting time. He's just wasting time. Why would this be the guy you send to interview Ghislaine Maxwell? Okay, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh there, but I don't know. It pisses me off. He's just like, his research is that he fucking scrolled 4chan for a little bit or something. Like maybe he started like a thread. Hey, what's up, Paul? I got a chance to interview Ghislaine Maxwell and I'm freaking out. Can anyone post questions I should ask her? Thanks, whatever. Be me. It's like a green text. Be me. Be Trump's lawyer for the Stormy Daniels case. Suddenly find myself Deputy Attorney General. Now I have to interview Ghislaine Maxwell and I really don't know anything about her. My face went. I don't know.